In today's podcast, I'm going to be talking about this chair that I've just built and all the mistakes I've made in it, and basically the proportions I'm not happy with. And I invite all of you to come in and critique the chair. So what I will say to you is, don't just say it's shit and leave it at that. Say it's shit and give us a reason why. I'm very open to criticism, and hopefully I can learn from some of the criticism. So I'm just going to go over a few of the proportions, things I'm not happy with, and some of the mistakes I've made. What I will say, and I'll get this out of the way straight away, is that it's very comfortable to sit on. So some of you might say that I've succeeded because I've got a chair that's comfortable. So for me personally, I'm just sitting down in it for those of you that aren't watching. So for me personally, this is a very, very comfortable seating height for me. I'm only a little guy, so it probably looks a little bit smaller on camera, but for me, this is perfect. It's perfect for sitting down to have a cup of tea, to eat your food with, which obviously that's what it's intended for. This is going to live in my kitchen, at my kind of dining table, bench, whatever you want to call it. And it's probably going to be decent, although I haven't done it too much yet. Obviously, it still needs some more oil on it. But I think it's going to be okay to sit on and work at the computer when I'm doing the newsletter and such. Which, by the way, if you aren't aware, I am doing a free newsletter. This highlights different people in the woodworking community from around the world. And, obviously I do highlight myself a little bit. Keep you up to date with things I'm doing and such, and mini articles. So if you're interested, check out the description, and there will be links in the description for the newsletter. So, some of the proportions that I do not like. So, the crest at the top, the backrest rail, I'm not sure the correct terminology for it. So, that I personally feel it should have been. There should have been more width to it. I personally think maybe another inch to it. So what is it now? It's near enough 2 inches. So I think maybe 3 inches, which is around about 75 millimeters. That would have looked better. I personally feel it would have looked better. And I do feel the length of it as well. I think the length past the center line of the spindle, that's like 20 millimeters. So it's just over 3/4 of an inch. I personally feel if I had have maybe taken that to I don't know, maybe 35-40 millimeters, I think that would have been a lot better. But obviously it is what it is. It didn't look too bad when I was making it, and then obviously when everything was glued up and kind of the first coat of oil on it, I'm looking at it and I'm just really, really not happy with it. So something that somebody just said today on Instagram, I believe it was that, is the backrest leaning back too much? Now, for me personally, no, it's not. For me personally, it's fine. And if I wanted this to be a bit more of a lounge chair, I would actually add slightly a bit more angle going backwards. Now, I do realise to some people this might be a bit too much. And that goes back to the old adage of kind of when you're making a chair, you should be making it for that person or for yourself. I've talked about this like kind of with Roman workbenches and stuff. It's like, if I build a Roman workbench or even a chair, for myself, it's not going to be suitable for somebody else, you know, like 6.5 foot tall, because I'm only like 5.5 foot tall. So they're going to find it a little less comfortable. And if I'm sitting in a seat made for somebody that's 6'6", it's going to be uncomfortable for me. There's going to be pressure on the underside of my leg from this, because my feet aren't able to touch the ground correctly. And it's obviously it's the same for, you know, for the backrest as well. So the backrest, again, for me it's perfect, but for some people, you know, because you do get people that have got extremely straight backs. Mine's not extremely straight, mine's extremely bent. I do suffer from kyphosis, and this is due to, you know, 26 years of scaffolding, unfortunately, and it hasn't been kind to myself. So I personally feel that is okay. So another thing that I'm not happy with is the actual shape of the spindles. So again, at the time it seemed like a good idea. So basically I've got a conical tenons on each of these, and you know, it kind of goes up maybe a fist, and it does start to taper down, and it tapers down to like 10mm. So while I'm confident these are strong enough and I don't think they're going to break, I'm just not happy with the shape. I would have liked to seen a bit more of a bulb, same way the legs are, because the legs have got like kind of a bulb, and I would have liked to seen that, and for them to taper down to the seat itself. So obviously I ain't happy with that. When I initially made the stretchers, I had, I think it was an extra 60mm of height on the legs. So obviously this was too tall for myself, and I had already leveled the feet. I just find it easier to work if you level the feet. I don't necessarily think that's the done thing, but I think I've built about 3 or 4 like kind of stick chairs, and I've always just leveled the feet like twice. So basically I get a rough level, you know, get everything leveled out, get the angle of the seat I want, and then the next time I level it, it'll be the height that it's going to stay at, type of thing. So this time when I've done it, I basically had 60mm of extra height on it, and how I actually drilled for the stretchers, I had the chair on my workbench and basically just used the level of my workbench, because my workbench is flat, and just used the base of the drill, cordless drill, and basically that's how I got all my heights, and it worked out very well, really well. But when I removed the 60mm, I personally don't like how low the stretchers are. So 2 reasons I don't like the stretchers being where they are. Firstly, I don't particularly think it looks good. I think these stretchers might have looked, you know, better if they had been maybe, I don't know, maybe an extra 3 inches up, something like that. I think it would have looked, the design would have looked better. And for those of you that already know, it's not really a good height. Basically, I think these are going to be more prone to damage, just with them being so low. If they had been higher up, you've got the side of the seat to protect them a little bit more. So basically, for those of you that don't know, a stretcher is to stop the legs from coming apart. I mean, they'll probably be all right anyway, and not all chairs kind of need stretchers. To be honest, I probably could have got away with not putting stretchers in this, because the seats itself is actually, beach is extremely, it's hard and strong and good wearing and whatnot. But if you put the stretchers in, it does add a lot of rigidity, you know, to the chair, and you know, the chair is probably going to last a lot longer. I mean, this chair in general is most likely going to outlive me. Bit of a scary thought, but it is most likely going to outlive me. But as I said, you know, for damage wise, I think they should have been higher up, but it is what it is. It should be okay, but you you never know type of thing, do you? Another thing about the proportions is that I didn't quite like the splay on the back legs. I feel the splay should have been more out, you know, and should have had a little bit more rake on it. I think it would have been, or it would have looked better. I mean, stability wise, yeah, of course it would have been more stable. Obviously, the bigger you build a base on something, the more stable it's going to be. Kind of think pyramids, you know, obviously the base of the pyramid is absolutely huge. So it's a very stable structure. It's the same with scaffolding. You put a scaffold up, if you're putting a scaffold tower up, the wider you make the base, the more secure that scaffold's going to be as you go up. Obviously there's limitations, and it's the same sort of thing with furniture. But I mean, as it is stable. It's not gonna, you know, I think you'd have a lot of trouble making it rock over when you were sitting in it. But visually for me, I think it just would have looked better that way. So other than that, I'm kind of, you know, I think those are for me at least, I think those are the proportions that stand out the most, that I personally feel need changed. What do you guys think? Do you agree with us, or do you think there's other aspects? So the seat probably could have used a little bit more refining on the shape of it, but in general, I can kind of live with the seat. It's not overly that bad. That being the shape of it, but obviously there is some things that I don't like about it. One of the things about the seats that I don't like, and I guess I could still change it if I really wanted to, but I'm not going to, is that obviously I've put a dip in this, and you should be able to see the dip on camera. The problem with the dip is that the highest points, or the lowest point rather, in the dip is not centre to the chair where it should be. It's slightly more to this side, and obviously I don't know if you can notice it on the camera. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but that's something I should have sorted out, and you know, I didn't. So it's probably going to nag at us a little bit, but you know, just laziness basically. So to point out some of the mistakes, so when I was making the spindles, I made the two outside spindles first, and that's obviously how I got, you know, my lines to drill, all my angles to drill for these two middle ones. So when I made the two middle spindles, I made them a bit too thin, and or the holes a bit too wide, whichever way it is. I've never actually measured the holes, so I don't really know, but I am gathering I made the holes a little bit wider than, or a little bit deeper than the two outside ones. So again, might be able to see on the camera, or telling the camera, that these two centre ones are actually slightly bigger in diameter. Maybe you can see. It might look a little, from where I'm standing, it actually looks a lot worse from what it is because of the colour of this one. This outside spindle is it's a bit more blonde than the two middle ones. The two middle ones, they're a bit more darker, and obviously the two outside ones, especially the one I'm touching right now, it's actually like a lot more blonde. So it does look a little bit worse than it is, but you know, again, it's me. Anything like this, I tend to notice it. I'm quite bad for it. So again, I mean, I could have chosen to, you know, kind of make some more, but I kind of chose not to. I mean, I could have cut these, and you know, and I could redo it if I really wanted to, but because it's for myself, I'm not going to. Another mistake that I made was when I was actually gluing this thing up. I've actually, unbeknown to me, I've glued this thing up, and this stretcher, it should have been turned 180 degrees. So this hole that you see now, where it's pegged, wedged, where it's wedged, that basically should have been on this side. So again, I don't know if you'll be able to tell, probably not on the camera, but there is a slight bend in this stretcher, this middle stretcher. And again, this is carelessness on my behalf, not paying attention, being lazy. Basically, what I should have done, I should have put some tape around this stretcher and the other stretcher, and basically just signalled which way the holes needed to face. But I didn't do that, and this is the results. I mean, unless you're looking for it, you probably wouldn't notice it. I suppose I've been lucky in a sense because it hasn't snapped, you know, and you know, having a snap during glue up, it's, you know, as you can imagine, it can be a little bit problematic. So obviously the two middle spindles, just since I've you know, kind of seen them there, I will show you. So those were the two original spindles. So you can see they are, you know, noticeably thinner. And basically the reason I had to swap these out, I'm sorry, I'm backtracking here, but the reason I had to swap those spindles out was because the holes, what I had reamed, there was basically a gap all the way around. So basically the original spindles weren't wide enough, so it looked very unsightly, and that was something I just wasn't willing to, you know, kind of grin and bear. That, I think that would have really bothered us. I mean, a lot more than, you know, these being slightly wider in diameter do. When I made the crest, the back rail, the back crest, the crest, whatever you want to call it, somebody please correct us of the correct terminology for the backrest. When I did make this, it took me 3 attempts to make this. So the first attempt was steam bending. So basically the whole chair is made with beech, and the reason it's made with beech is because I got quite a lot of beech at a very cheap price. So it was taking up a lot of space, and I thought, why not use it, get it out of the way, instead of going out and buying extra timber. Bearing in mind that I have got a spalted beech kind of bench, breakfast bench table sort of thing in my dining room or my kitchen, so obviously it's going to match somewhat. So I thought, use it up. The problem with the beech is that it's kiln dried, and it is pretty dry. I'm not sure of the moisture content, but it is pretty dry. So knowing this, I said to myself, I'll let it soak for a couple of days in some water. So I did. I let it soak for a couple of days in water. I tried to steam bend it, and it fractured straight away. It's just far too dry. Not to mention that I was trying to bend it a bit more than I needed to bend it. I don't even know what was going on in my mind trying to bend it. So how I was trying to bend it, or rather the shape of the bend, you know, it was a lot. It didn't need to be the amount of bend in it that's this kind of jig. So basically I'm holding in my hand is one part of if you can call it a very crude bending jig. So basically I've got two pieces, holes drilled in exactly the same position, and you put 3 pegs in. So basically the piece goes over the middle and it's hooked underneath the peg on the right and the peg on the left. And anyone who's done a little bit or seen a little bit of chair build, they'll know what I'm talking about. But as I said, this is a very crude version of it, and it failed straight away. So I thought to myself, I'm not going to bother trying to bend another piece. I will laminate a backrest. So I cut a lot of strips, and because I'm very, very lazy, I decided to use this same jig. In my mind I thought, apply the glue, put the laminates in, get them into position, and just use a lot of J-clamps to apply pressure. It should be okay. So I done that, and what I ended up with was this. So basically this is a piece of shit, basically. There's too much of a bend in it for start. It's twisted. I don't know if you can see the twist in that. Maybe you can see the twist. It's got quite a bad twist in it. And I did actually try to salvage this. I thought to myself, I'll try and work with it. I'll try and smooth it out a bit, and see what I can do with it. And I soon abandoned it. I soon thought to myself, it's going to be easier just to make the backrest. Ironically, the way I made this backrest was the way I was going to make it in the first place, which I just should have done. So basically this come from a single piece of timber. Drew my curve out, done a lot of curve cuts, chiseled it out, and then finished up with a spoke shave. And I think I got the whole thing done in about an hour. Nice, quick. It was the quickest method. And it's absolutely sound. I personally think the curvature is okay. It could have been slightly a little bit more, but obviously we was using one piece of timber, and just the way the grain was running, because the grain was pretty straight in that piece of timber. Obviously there's only so much curvage you can put into something like that. Obviously if the grain had been kind of given us some sort of a curvature, that is the grain running in a curvature, I could have put more of a curve on it. But as it is, it kind of is what it is. So obviously the thing about when you are doing stuff like this, it's just taking time out of your day. So I don't know how long I wasted trying to steam bend something and soaking it. So there's also the fact that I obviously had to cut all these laminates. How many laminates is in? Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 laminates. So I did have to cut 10 laminates. I mean, don't get us wrong, I did cut these with my track saw. So it wasn't too much of a heartache, but it's still time consuming. and obviously applying the glue, you know, trying to get into the form, and then using like pretty much all of those J-clamps you can see on the wall. And that was another thing as well. I still, again, you might be able to see, I still had gaps, you know, and again, this is me. I should know better. If I had wanted to do this properly, I should have took the time. I should have built the correct form. You know, there's a reason why forms get built, so you can clamp to them and stuff, and you get better results. Because this is just absolutely, you know. And I think one of the things about it is there's nothing I can do with it. You know, I cannot salvage it. Some pieces, you know, when you're making stuff and it doesn't go quite right, sometimes, a lot of the time, you can salvage it, and you can just, you know, put it in your scrap pile, and at a later date you might come back to it. But like with this, with it being so twisted, there's nothing I can do with it. So unfortunately, you know, it's going to go into a log burner. The final mistake that I'm going to point out today is that I believe it's this leg. The angle of the rake and splay isn't the same as this leg. So I did actually try and compensate, and I did try to fix this, and I thought I would have been able to fix it, but it turns out that I didn't I didn't get that. And I did get a little closer, a little bit more acceptable with this leg, and I didn't want to take any more out of the female portion of the conical tenon. And what I decided to do, in all my wisdom, was to come to this leg and to, you know, just ream a little bit out of this leg, just to kind of match this leg. So basically I did make it a little bit better. It was better than what it was. But what I also did, which is really annoying, is that the holes on top, these are no longer a circle but more of an elliptical shape. So basically, I don't know if you'll be able to see on camera. Let's see if I can tilt this chair a little bit. So basically, here where I'm pointing with my finger now, I've got a gap where I can get my fingernail in. So that's maybe a millimetre, just shy of a millimetre, and it's exactly the same on the other side. So the two back sides, they were perfectly fine. I got them the right angle. I was happy with the angle of those. Of course, that's not kind of bearing in mind that I think they should have had a little bit more rake and splay on them. But the rake and splay that I did initially want to do them at, I did succeed with that, so I didn't have to touch the rake and splay, or adjust them rather. So maybe you'll be able to see on camera, but they're nice and round and there's no gaps, and I love to see that. And when I see stuff like this, especially when I've done it myself, it annoys us. I did actually think about filling them. I did think to myself, you know, get some PVA glue, you know, whack some sandpaper in there and fill the hole. The only trouble with that, at least for me, is that I'll know I've done it and I'll look for it. Every time I sit down, I'll look for it. So it's one of them, because when I go to sit down, I'm going to notice them every time. But if I had filled it, I'll notice it. So it's a bit of a catch-22. But I think out of everything, I think that's one of the most annoying things. But at the time, I didn't realise that I was going to be doing this. So let that be a lesson to you. If you are going to start messing around, you know, with a rake and splay with a reamer, you know, be sure that you're going down deep enough so that you're not going to be left with an elliptical shape. Rather, you go down deep enough so it still remains, you know, like a you know, like a true circle. So what can I personally take away from this? Personally, I think that I probably should invest in a couple of things. The first one, what I think I should invest in should be a small mirror. So again, for those of you that have made chairs, those of you that have seen, you know, chairs being built, you've probably seen people drilling into chairs with a brace and bits, exactly the same way I've done that. But what they'll have a mirror, and as they're drilling, they'll be able to see in that mirror if the angle of the bit is matching the angle of a sliding bevel. So for those of you that don't know, quick demonstration here. So when you're drilling, you would have your brace and bit, and your bit would be coming obviously towards yourself, and as you're using the brace and bit, and if you had the mirror, you'd be able to gauge the angle. So it sounds stupid, and believe it or not, I haven't actually got a small mirror like that in my home, believe it or not. So I think that's something I'm going to invest in. So something else that I may invest in is some lasers, and they've come down in price since the first time I looked at them, and the first time I looked at them was quite a number of years ago, and they were quite expensive. So what I mean by lasers is basically you get these little boxes, and they just shine a beam out. These are used in the building industry, you know, to get like a straight line around the wall for whatever reason, or a vertical parallel line. I think there's ones that do all sorts of lines. I do believe you can even get ones that will paste like laser a graph onto a wall now, I believe. But I think for the price of them, because they have come down a lot, I mean, I think I wasn't little whenever it was, and I'm pretty sure they had some lasers, like a little box like lasery thing, what I'm thinking about buying. I think at the time it was £20-ish, something like that. It's ironic because at the time I had it in my hand and I thought, shall I buy it, shall I not? And I was like, I don't really build enough chairs to kind of warrant it, but at the same time it was only £20, and I was fortunate enough to have, you know, £20 to spend on it, and I chose not to. But I think I might, you know, kind of, you know, bite the bullet and buy that. I think with those two things, don't get us wrong, it's not the be all end all. You can have all the tools in the world and it doesn't make you a good woodworker. But I do think that it will help us a little bit. I personally think that in the future I should really either use a plan or design something myself and stick to that plan. One of the bad things, and I did speak about this on one of the last podcasts I done about this chair when I was making it, and it was full of mistakes then, is that I have a design in my head and it changes so many times, and I'm very, very bad for it. So it wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea just to buy some plans from, you know, a professional chair maker, and there's quite a few that I follow on Instagram, some really good chair makers I follow. And I think in the future, if I do have kind of a need to make some chairs, I'm probably just going to buy plans. That, you know, it's just going to save us a lot of aggravation. The thing about this, now this is made, I can actually copy it, but I've got a bit of a dilemma with that, because the proportions, obviously, that I'm not happy with. Should I change them on the new chair? That's the dilemma, because if someone comes to the house, let's just say, they're going to notice it straight away. And obviously I'll notice it. I think in time I would get used to it. But, you know, I think it would be very noticeable. So if you've got two chairs, you know, kind of side by side, obviously the rail's going to be bigger. The splays are going to be different in the leg. And obviously the stretcher's going to be a tad higher. So do I do that? Or do I leave it the same? Or do I build a completely different chair, which I have been thinking about doing. I am kind of leaning towards building a George Nakashima, I hope I've said his name right there, cantilever chair. I've known about the cantilever chairs for such a long time, and I've wanted to build one for such a long time, and obviously I've never got around to it. So I did think, would it be viable? Would it be good to do something like that? And it would be the thing about it is, it would be a blatant mismatch in my kitchen. Obviously, you know, you've got two mixtures of chairs. I did build, when I first built the table, just to give you a bit of a backstory, I did first build the table, I built a bench to go with it. And my idea was have a bench one side and have two chairs the other side. And that's it, that's all I wanted to do. I've always intended on keeping the bench. So, I don't know, you know, what do you guys think? Do you think I should keep the bench? Obviously, I'm going to keep this chair. Do I build a George Nakashima? Again, I hope I said his name right. Cantilever chair. Or do I build another one of these and keep it exactly the same? Or do I build another one of these and change the proportions slightly? That's me little bit of me conundrum at the moment. And I don't really know what I'm going to do, because I have got beach to do, you know, either another one of these chairs, and I've also got enough beach to do a cantilever chair as well. So that's the conundrum at the moment. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. You know, as I said, I'm very open to criticism. Just make it constructive. And until the next time, I shall see you guys later.